Okay. Here's a third application of the icon of Jesus. The idea of creation from nothing. Creatio ex nihilo. If God is not a being, but ipsum esse, right? The sheer act of to be itself. That means that whatever else exists besides God, in its entirety comes from God. Now again, contrast this to a lot of views in the ancient world, ancient philosophy and mythology, whereby God or the gods make the world, but out of something, right? There's some co-primordial matter or energy or something, and the gods or God shape it into the form that we see, the way an artist would work with wood or clay or something. Well, that ain't it now in the Christian reading. If God is ipsum esse, he's what it means to be, then whatever else exists comes in every detail, in every aspect of its being, utterly from God. Now, what follows from this? Several really interesting things that determine the way Christians think about the world. First of all, creatio ex nihilo means that the entire universe, in every nook and cranny, is marked by intelligibility. The medievals had a great little, typical of the medievals, very laconic adage. Ens est scibile. Just means being is knowable. Now see, it seems obvious, but the more you think about it, the stranger it is. Every aspect of existence, every nook and cranny of the world, at all dimensions, is marked by intelligibility. Why? Because it has been thought into being by a personal, intelligent God. See, there's no surd, there's no aspect of being outside of the causal, personal, and intelligent influence of God. It's all been made from nothing. And therefore, every bit of it is marked by intelligibility. Now, here's something you see in John Polkinghorne. Do you know his work? He's a high-level particle physicist from Cambridge who in midlife became an Anglican priest and does some of the best writing on religion and science today. Peter Hodgson comes to mind. Nicholas Jockey comes to mind. Albert Einstein himself comes to mind. Joseph Ratzinger himself comes to mind. All these people acknowledge that it's no accident whatsoever that the modern physical sciences emerged precisely out of a Christian theological matrix. How come that's not surprising? Because one of the things you need to get the sciences off the ground is this fundamentally mystical assumption that being is intelligible. Mind you, I'm not talking about intelligent design. That's something total. I'm not talking about that at all. Something much more fundamental, that being in every nook and cranny, I don't care if you're looking at a telescope up in the sky, you're looking at a microscope down at the microscopic level, if you're in the ocean, no matter where you look, you're going to find intelligibility. Where's that mystical intuition come from? If not from this doctrine of creatio ex nihilo. In the beginning was the Word, and everything was made through the Word. Intelligibility is a theological, mystical assumption. One reason why, and there's many others I could give, but one reason why the war between science and religion is such a tragedy and such consummate nonsense. The war, I would say theology is the condition for the possibility of the sciences. Here's a second conclusion from Creatio ex nihilo. Nonviolence is metaphysically basic. I was privileged to sit with Stanley Hauerwas, one of my theological heroes, and you know how central he makes nonviolence to his thinking. Well, here's one reason, everybody. An implication of Creatio ex nihilo is that nonviolence is ontologically basic. Now, why do I say that? Contrast this doctrine again with a lot of other ancient views. In most of the ancient myths of creation, something like a primordial violence takes place. And from that violence comes order. So it's a battle of the gods. Usually it's a god or set of gods having been conquered and their bodies cut apart, and that's how the universe is made. Or some primordial suppression of a negative force leads to order. You see, even in the ancient philosophies, a more refined version of this, whereby Plato's demiurge, looking at the forms, now shapes recalcitrant matter, or how Aristotle's prime mover shapes prime matter into form, right? There's an interventionist, there's an aggressive quality to the making of order. Then there's Creatio ex nihilo. God makes the world from nothing. That means what? That means nothing opposes him, nothing stands athwart him, there's no rival to him, but rather through a sheerly nonviolent, and look at the beautiful symbolic language of the Bible, through a sheerly nonviolent act of speech, God gives rise to the whole of reality. Nonviolence is metaphysically basic. Look at now, I mentioned from the Epic of Gilgamesh and ancient things, all the way to Rambo or Dirty Harry or most of our movies. What do you find? That ancient myth that order comes through violence. If you got a gun, I'll get a bigger gun. You got an army, I'll get a bigger army. And I will impose order, creation, through an act of violence. That's a very old story. Then there's this story. Do you see now why, when the Word became flesh, he spoke to us these very strange words? Someone strikes you on the right cheek, turn and give them the other. Someone presses you into service for a mile, go a second mile. Resist not evil. You've been told to love your friends, hate your enemies. I tell you, love your enemies. This is not just a nice guy. This is someone speaking out of this fundamental metaphysical perception that nonviolence is ontologically basic. And when we walk the path of nonviolence, we are in line with this great truth. Gosh, again, how bad we've become, I think, at propagating this idea, we Christians. Here's something from Thomas Aquinas I love. Thomas defined creation this way: Quaedam relatio ad creatorem cum novitate essendi. That means it's a kind of relation to the Creator with freshness of being. I see what's wonderful about that is in classical thought, relation is an accident. Now, Aristotelians know what I mean here. There's a being over there, that wall. Here I am, and we have a relationship. I'm standing, in front of the wall. There you are, here I am, and we have a relationship. Relationship is metaphysically secondary to substances, right? But now think for a second. If God is making the universe every minute ex nihilo, that means there isn't like God and me and now we have a relationship, but rather I am every minute already a relationship. Quaedam relatio ad creatorem. I'm a kind of relationship to the Creator, cum novitate essendi, with freshness of being. God continually giving rise to the world. That's why Thomas Merton, by the way, the great spiritual master, said, contemplative prayer is finding the place in you where you are here and now being created by God. It's right out of this tradition, the nonviolence of creation.